Everyone has a story. Stories have power. They help us understand. Jessop's Journal is a collection of powerful, positive, and inspirational stories. It's time for Jessop's Journal.
Hi, I'm Doug Jessop. Welcome to this episode of Jessop's Journal, where we share powerful, positive, and inspirational stories in music. One of my granddaughters calls me Silly Grandpa, and so I figured, you know, the hat with what we're talking about today, it fits. You know, I was raised with the phrase, you don't know the horses without a program, so here's what we're going to talk about today. There's a children's hospital celebrating 100 years of service. Well, Katie Wilkie isn't just a registered nurse, she's also the CEO of Primary Children's Hospital. So happy birthday to the hospital, not Katie.
They had the inspiration and the vision to create a children's hospital. And that was what came out of Primary Children's. And the very, very first Primary Children's was built down on North Temple in the old Hyde home.
Music therapy at Primary Children's Hospital is a big deal. We shared Gerald's story. I got to meet him at the music therapy room. I'm Doug. How you doing? Since we talked about music therapy, we need to have the music therapist perform, don't you think?
He told me my fish would die the next day. He did. No. He told me I'd grow a gut, just like he said. No. Said all my hair would disappear. Now look at my head.
Kids just want to be loved for who they are, including their differences, but mostly for their similarities. We visit with twin brothers, Ben and Arthur. They're active 2-year-olds. Arthur happens to have spina bifida. Sometimes I think we forget what we're thankful for. I'm thankful for the director of the show, a guy by the name of Ed, but I'm also thankful for thankful stories.
I am thankful for the opportunity to serve children in a way I've never done before.
Knowledge is power. Dr. Per Jesslin has come up with this thing that tells us what's going around when it comes to infectious diseases.
If you're in the middle of the night, you know, your kid has a fever and a cough, and you're kind of wondering what's going around, you can go at least get some sense of what we're seeing throughout our clinics and our hospital systems in the state.
Objects with stories are treasures remembered. Jeanette DeWolf shares artifacts from a worldwide program where kids would donate shiny pennies to help other kids.
We had pennies by the inch, which invited children to give 1 penny for every inch they were tall to Primary Children's Hospital.
Okay, kids, it's time to get the party hats on, get the cupcakes. It's time to start the birthday celebration with a gentleman that is repairing hearts. For real, Dr. Robert Gray. I think he actually likes to be called Bob. So, hey, Bob, how you doing?
I'm great.
So thanks for coming on Jessop's Journal. So you're wearing the green. Obviously, you're a doctor. Inquiring minds want to know, what kind of doctor?
I am, it's a bit of a mouthful, but I am an interventional pediatric cardiologist.
Do you remember like one of those first patients where it's like, okay, we got this kid. This kid has some serious problems. It's all on, you know, it's all on your hands. It's all on you. You're going in. What's going through your mind?
Well, I remember an early case in my fellowship where, you know, I mean, we have our hairy cases, we have our kind of routine cases, but it kind of hit me full circle when I was scrubbing in one day and we had a little 4-year-old girl who had a hole in her heart. We were going to go in there and close it with a device, and it's pretty routine. But seeing her kind of laying on the table as they're putting her to sleep, you know, instead of being all covered up and we're just going in to do this procedure, it kind of struck me that this is a big deal. And we're taking someone's child and taking responsibility for them, and at times this is a rough business, but thankfully most of the time everything goes like it's supposed to, and when it does, it's incredible. I mean, it really is an opportunity, or you know, I feel fortunate to have the opportunity to be able to kind of do what I love and help people and have it go like it's supposed to most of the time.
Now, you brought some show and tell items. Walk me through the process of what this thing does.
The main thing that I want to showcase today is the Harmony valve. It's from a company called Medtronic. It's a transcatheter pulmonary valve. We're able to replace someone's pulmonary valve through the vein in the leg without opening up the chest, without going on the heart-lung bypass machine and emptying the heart out of blood and then going in there and surgically implanting this valve. So we can actually do it through the vein in the leg while the heart's beating and while the patient is asleep on the table under general anesthesia. A lot of the patients that we deal with have had multiple open heart surgeries already, and they're facing a lifetime of repeated open heart surgeries, because if you need an artificial valve, in general, most of these valves will go bad after about 7 years. So the body reacts to the tissue and beats up these valves faster than they would if you didn't have congenital heart disease. So this allows us to break the cycle of open heart surgery after open heart surgery after open heart surgery and be able to do it less invasively. And most of the time, we're fortunate that it goes like it's supposed to. And then we can get patients into the hospital, we can replace their heart valve, and they're walking out on their own the next morning with a couple Band-Aids.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing.
It's nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah.
So the last question I like to ask everybody. When I've been to the doctor, okay, and they're doing the surgery, they get out the pen and say, okay, I want to make sure we're doing it on the right, foot or leg or whatever, so you make some marks, okay? How do you want to, and it might not be on the surgery thing, okay, but how do you want to leave your mark?
I want to spend my life helping people, and whether it's helping my daughters grow up and be solid citizens, or help my patients grow up and lead as normal life as possible, I just like to be known as a humble guy who did his best to add something to the world.
Well, on behalf of all the patients that you've served at Primary Children's Hospital, thank you for what you do, and thanks for coming on today.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
One of my favorite inspirational quotes is from Audrey Hepburn. She said, "To plant a garden is to believe in tomorrow." Over the years, I've been able to do stories on ordinary people doing extraordinary things. It's time for the caring stories. Gerald had dilated cardiomyopathy, an enlarged heart that decreased the blood flow in his body. His mom, Amanda, explains.
It was irreversible. It was getting worse, so he ended up on what's called a Berlin heart. That's an external heart pumping his blood for him. He was on that for 7 months, which is the longest they've ever had somebody on it here at Primaries.
Gerald got a heart transplant at Primary Children's Hospital in March. He's still at the hospital recovering. I got to meet him at the music therapy room. I'm Doug. How you doing? So tell me about Gerald.
Music makes him happier probably than anything else. If there's a song playing, he is dancing. Even when he was in the ICU, very sedated. Right after his transplant, we put the Trolls movie on, and there's one little clip that came on, and he's half asleep and he couldn't stop himself from doing a little shimmy in his bed. If it's on, he is dancing and he is happy about it, yeah.
What is music therapy?
It's really rooted in addressing the needs of an individual through music. It's as simple as that. Anything from helping a kid in the hospital who's having trouble fall asleep, or it could be writing a song with a teenager to help them process a new diagnosis.
What gives you hope?
Being able to look at a really challenging situation and still be able to find hope and still be able to find beauty and still be able to create joy. I think those are the kind of things that we try to do here in a children's hospital. And it can be really challenging, but it can be really rewarding too. And I always say that it's an honor to get to work with these families because it truly is.
These stories deserve to be told. These are the caring stories.
According to music therapists Mackenzie Mondek and Eliana Rivera, we don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno, but it was my wedding day. It was our wedding day. We were getting ready, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. No clouds allowed in the sky. Bruno walks in with a mischievous grin, thunder, telling the story, or am I? I'm sorry, Mimi, though, go on. Bruno says it looks like rain. Why did he tell us? In doing so, he floods my brain. Abuela, get the umbrella. Buried in a hurricane. What a joyous day, but anyway. It's a heavy lift with a gift so humbling. Always up the abuela and the family fumbling. Grappling with prophecies he couldn't understand. Do you understand? 7-foot frame rats along his back. When he calls your name, it all fades to black. Yeah, he sees your dreams and feasts on your screams. We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. He told me my fish would die, the next day he did. No, no. He told me I'd grow a gun, just like he said. No, no. Said all my hair would disappear. Now look at my head. Your fate is sealed when your prophecy is read. He told me that my life of my dreams would be promised and someday be mine. He told me that my power would grow like the grapes that thrive on the vine. Oye, Mariano's on his way. Told me that the man of my dreams would be just out of reach. Betrothed to another. It's like I hear him now. I want not a sound out of you. It's like I can hear him now. Bruno. Yeah, about that Bruno. I really need to know about Bruno. Give me the truth and the whole truth, Bruno. Isabella, your boyfriend's here. Time for dinner. A 7-foot frame rats along his back. When he calls your name, it all fades to black. Yeah, he sees your dreams and feasts on your screams. You tell him the story, or am I? Bruno says it looks like rain. In doing so, he floods my brain. Married in a hurricane. We don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno.
Primary Children's Hospital has been serving the community for a century now. Katie Wilkie, the CEO, shared some stories you might not have heard of before.
I'm the CEO at Primary Children's Hospital and the Vice President for Children's Health for Intermountain Healthcare.
Well, Primary Children's Hospital has been around for a long time. In fact, you guys have got a really cool birthday.
Yes.
You know, happy birthday. Yes. What number is it?
100, triple digit. It is a triple digit birthday.
What was the idea to even get it started?
There were two women who were part of the Primary Association for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints,
Okay.
Louis B. Felt and May Anderson. And they watched a child sort of struggling to get across the street, probably had polio, and they realized there was no place to care for children in Salt Lake or Utah. I mean, there just was. I mean, there'd been early children's hospitals created, like in Boston and Pennsylvania, but nothing in Utah. And they had the inspiration and the vision to create a children's hospital. And that was what came out of Primary Children's. And the very, very first Primary Children's was built down on North Temple in the old Hyde home. It was mostly convalescent when it very first started, but it was a great start to a very, very long history.
Okay, these two ladies got an idea to start a hospital, but how in the world did you come up with the money to start the thing?
Yeah, well, it's a wonderful story actually, because there's incredible philanthropy that was built even amongst children. First of all, it started with Penny Parade, then Pennies by the Inch, where children would actually donate their pennies by the number of age of their years, and all of that money went to the building of the hospital. And then President Heber J. Grant had a birthday present. I think it was his 82nd birthday present. They gave him 1,000 silver dollars.
Wow.
Beautiful, beautiful silver dollars. And he had each of those mounted into a paperweight and sold them for $100 a piece and donated all of that money to the building of the Children's Hospital.
Wow.
Just incredible start. And that sense of philanthropy has continued through to today. I mean, we still have children giving pennies by the inch and grown-ups giving pennies by the inch and Festival of Trees, and you see that community that loves their children's hospital and wants to make sure there's a safe place for kids.
So you had the original hospital that was built 100 years ago.
Yes.
And then you moved from there to up in the avenues.
Yes, 1952.
And then you moved here.
1990.
Now you're staying here,
Yes.
but for the first time that I remember, you're expanding.
Yes.
Where and why?
So it's the first time we've expanded the whole hospital. We've done rehab sites and outpatient clinics and other places, but we're actually building a second primary children's hospital. And it's in Lehi, Utah. And the why is that the population in Utah County is growing so quickly, and southern Salt Lake County is growing very quickly. And we want to be close to home for care. We do that in other ways with telemedicine and with doing outreach clinics, but it's such a burden on families to travel long distances when their children are sick. We wanted to be able to offer care closer to home. And that is the perfect location. It's an area that has loads of children. They're excited about the Children's Hospital, and it'll serve not only that immediate geographic region, but if you think of everybody from southern Utah who comes up today to this campus, that campus will be so much closer for their care.
Well, I understand that you guys have come up with all kinds of cool things with spina bifida, especially.
Yes.
So tell me what's the latest in the spina bifida front?
So, I mean, this is when you were talking about changes. The very first thing for me was that recognition that when you're treating parents, the mother when she's pregnant early on, high vitamins makes a big difference. If once you're diagnosed with spina bifida, they can now go in and they can repair the majority of the spina bifida while they're in utero. And the important thing about that is if there's a spina bifida, the brain isn't absorbing spinal fluid like it normally does, and so the body, the heart, the kidneys isn't used to processing all that fluid. So once you're able to correct that in utero, it connects to all of those other organs, so they're developing all the time the rest of the body's developing, as well as it increases the likelihood of kids being able to walk. So that's probably the most important piece, is it keeps all of those other systems going.
I got to tell you, on behalf of lots of parents and grandparents out there, thank you very much for what you guys do.
Where is Doug broadcasting from next? FollowDoug.com. Meet twin brothers Arthur and Ben Hamilton. They're active 2-year-olds. Arthur happens to have spina bifida.
Spina bifida is a congenital disorder, so babies are born with spina bifida, and the congenital disorder is of the spine. So when the spine formed, part of the spinal cord and the tissues overlying the spinal cord emerged through the back.
The University of Utah Health and Primary Children's Hospital provide a team approach with 12 specialists for every child dealing with spina bifida.
Our focus is not to just focus on the medical issues, but we want to help families and meet the challenge of helping their children be independent and love life and function in the community at every major stage of development.
What can the community do to help families like the Hamiltons?
Sometimes another child will say to their parent, oh, why is he in a chair? And other parents will kind of shush their child. And I'd much rather have them come up to me or my child and say, hey, tell me a little bit more about what this chair does for you or what you need.
What's something that you want people to know about your boys?
I think that kids just want to be kids, and kids want to play and be accepted and loved for who they are, including their differences, but more of their similarities. Arthur likes to do so much like any other 2-year-old. And it always warms my heart when people realize that. Oh, you want Doug to do it?
You want me to do it? Yeah. Okay, awesome.
What do you say?
Sweet.
Want Doug to broadcast from your event, destination, or business? FollowDoug.com.
I've got a question for you. You know, the person right there on the couch drinking your coffee. What are you thankful for right here, right now?
I am thankful for the opportunity to serve children in a way I've never done before.
The ability that I have to be with these kids, these patients that are here, and to support them in whatever way that I am able to.
I'm thankful that I have 3 lovely daughters that are healthy and happy, and an understanding wife who allows me the freedom to do this job.
The opportunity to connect with patients and families through music.
My family. I wouldn't be here without them.
At the end of each G.I. Joe cartoon, there was a phrase said, "Knowing is half the battle." Dr. Per Jesslin explains. Obviously, you're a doctor, so what kind of doctor are you?
So I'm what's called a pediatric hospitalist. So that means I take care of pediatric patients just in hospitalized settings, specifically primary children's hospital.
What in the world possessed you to become a doctor?
I grew up in a family rich with science and healthcare background. My grandfather was a pediatrician in Madison, Wisconsin. My mother was a pediatric nurse practitioner, worked up at the Teen Mom clinic up here at the University of Utah. And my father was a geneticist who brought us out here from Long Island, New York back in the mid-late 1970s.
I understand that you have a special object that has a story behind it.
So there's a couple objects that are really powerful to me. One of them is an old doctor's bag I keep in my office at home that's filled with my grandfather's old tools that he would, take around and back when docs did, home visits to take care of patients. So that one keeps me grounded about a generation of physicians who practiced with a whole lot less knowledge than we have nowadays, and an older set of tools, and a time when polio was ripping through the country and scaring lots of people. So that one keeps me grounded about the history of medicine. I have another picture that's in my office at work of my mother working in clinic and examining a young baby that keeps me grounded in that transition to now me practicing pediatrics at one of the best children's hospitals in the West.
So you mentioned something there about knowledge. To me, knowledge is power. And you also talked about polio. Now, I heard a news report the other day that bluntly scared the crap out of me, because I'm going, okay, they're saying that they've actually seen another case of polio in the US, and I thought it was eradicated. So you are actually doing some research and some database tracing of some sort, but you got to explain it a lot better than I can.
Sure.
So explain what this Germ Watch type program is.
Yeah, so Germ Watch has been a baby of mine of sorts, dating back to the early 2000s. You can now test for infectious disease organisms. As everybody knows, you can swab your nose and pretty quickly find out if you've got certain infections. The technology nowadays allows you to test for multiple pathogens at the same time and get that information back within a matter of an hour. So we can have some tests that allow us to test for 20 different respiratory illnesses on a single swab. Wow. Or a single specimen. And then if you imagine that type of testing capability in a large integrated healthcare delivery system like Intermountain Healthcare has, of which Primary Children's is a part, you can start to aggregate that information, all those data points, and then literally turn that data into information in the form of epidemic curves and maps. And then if you got the right dissemination channels through web pages, through your mobile phone, you can put that information right into the hands of our frontline clinicians and even our healthcare consumers in the state.
So consumers can check out this information
Yeah,
as well.
So we've strived over the last several years to create something akin to a viral weather report that's readily consumable for the public, that comes along with descriptions and action items and things to watch for, so that if you're in the middle of the night, your kid has a fever and a cough, and you're kind of wondering what's going around, you can go at least get some sense of what we're seeing throughout our clinics and our hospital systems in the state.
Okay, so shameless plug, what's the website that people would go to?
So it's germwatch.org or .com or .net, and you can get to it through any of those URLs.
Good job. Well, thank you so much for what you do, and thanks for coming on Jessop's Journal.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Objects with stories are treasures remembered. Jeanette DeWolf shares artifacts from a worldwide program where kids would donate shiny pennies to help other kids. We have some objects here from Primary Children's 100 years of history. That's pretty cool. So who are some of the people that have supported Primary Children's over the years?
The hospital was owned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and in 1975 was formed Intermountain Healthcare, and the Pennies Parade was started long before that, and then we had Pennies by the Inch, which invited children to give 1 penny for every inch they were tall to Primary Children's Hospital. So children giving to children. And some of the early people who really helped with that, names that you know, are Marie and Donnie Osmond, Robert Redford, well known here in Utah, but also nationally. You know, we had banks so that kids could put their money in. I had a friend who said to me, I can remember as a child doing my pennies and then going to Primary Children's Hospital and giving it to the hospital, which I thought was really unique. In all my years in fundraising, I have never heard of a campaign like that. So that is something very unique to Utah.
Oh, and the kids got to put their pennies into a bank that looked like the hospital. So it's pretty cool. You know, it's like, yeah, it's like, hey, I got to give my money. It's like, okay. Well, and think about it. I mean, you know, that gift of being able to give. Because in my opinion, now granted I get a little sappy on this one, but the reality is that Primary Children's Hospital gives the gift of life. And I mean, you can't, it's hard to put a price on that.
That's right. And you know, we help save and change children's lives. I grew up where my parents didn't have a lot of money to give, but they were very involved in our schools, in our church, in the community. And as kids, we were all part of that. And I can remember that feeling of, this feels good. You didn't quite know what it was, but it felt good to be part of something outside of yourself.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you, Doug. I appreciate being here.
Life is never boring. Clear nasal spray helps me breathe better. I think it'll help you too. So join me, you know you want to, and take a deep breath. Thanks for watching this special episode of Jessop's Journal, The Children First and Always. It's my honor to share powerful, positive, and inspirational stories on TV every week, as well as worldwide at jessopsjournal.com. Here's the thing I want you to remember. Everyone has a story. Yes, you have a story. Stories have power. They help us understand each other. With another entry into Jessop's Journal, I'm Doug Jessop.
We don't talk about Bruno, no.